take in the sun while I can.
I thought I'd introduce the company and stuff and then have you do your thing, Allison. Does that work?
That sounds good. Yep.
Okay. So are you ready, Colin?
Thumbs up. Yep.
Okay. All right. So Silverback is a educational software company, and we have 3 pieces of software. And the basis of our software is really to help teachers accomplish the goals that they need to accomplish. And so the first and our flagship piece of software is called Milepost, and it is a individual learning plan software. So teachers can go in and create individual learning plans for different students. So if someone's having trouble with math, then they can go ahead and create different individual learning plans and put that together. We have another piece of software called Edify, and it is a assessment software. So you can go in and do quick little assessments, or you can do prep assessments for end of the year, like ISAT or iStation assessments. And so it allows the teacher to build assessments and use it. For example, there's a high school teacher in Valley View. He's a chemistry teacher, and he built his different online tests for different parts of the class, and then he can reuse those or modify those as the class goes along, and then assign them out. And then our last piece of software is called Teacher Vitae, and it's a teacher evaluation software. And so what that allows the principal or administrator to go into the class, observe the teacher, mark some notes. And so they would do that 3 or 4 times throughout the year. And then they would build a summative evaluation at the end of the year that just says, hey, this is how the teacher's doing through the year. And so all 3 of those are web applications that are built primarily on JavaScript and JavaScript and JavaScript libraries, Kendo grids and that sort of stuff. Milepost is built as an old web form application, so it's built in web form. So, and that's really the one we're looking at. We have a small piece of that application that we want you guys to take a look at, have a few use cases, and do some design on it. And so Silverback's been around. How long has Silverback been around, Allison? You remember?
2011.
10 years?
Yes,
2011.
2011. Mm-hmm.
We have a large market share in the Northeast and the Northwest, and expanding into the Southeast. And we have quite a bit of growing market share in Iowa, which is interesting. And someday we'll get into that. But anyway, we continue to grow and continue to expand our business. And now what we're doing is kind of rewriting some of our UIs to make them look a little more recent. So, any questions about the company?
Yeah, I got a question. Are you guys a public company then? Or?
No, we're privately held. We have angel investors that own most of the company.
Okay, gotcha.
Do you guys usually work with K through 12?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll let out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for the Milepost product, it's used more heavily in, I would say, elementary and middle schools than high schools, but the assessment product spans a little bit broader.
So who is the website sort of targeted for?
Yeah, do you want me to jump in and share my screen?
Yeah,
Joe?
why don't you go ahead and...
Can I share my screen, Colin?
Yeah, let me go ahead and turn that on. Give me 1 second here. All right, Allison, all yours.
All right. Oh, let me try it again. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we
Yep.
can.
Yes, we
Awesome. Okay, so this is Milepost. So this is that first product. And like Joe said, it really does a couple of things in here. The first one is it stores all of like the students' learning plans. So particularly for kids who are struggling, right, who are in need of sort of after school programs or remediation programs or things like that. So that's a big part of what Milepost does. Milepost also houses a lot of assessment data. So you can take like, you know, assessments and how are they compared to national standards and what standards are they lacking in and things like that. So those are kind of the big things that Milepost does, those two things. So the part of the product that we wanted you guys to look at is what is called the student e-file. So the users of this product are largely teachers, and then they can be also like the paraprofessionals, like the teachers' aides who are also in doing some of the remediation with the students. And then there's also use cases around principals as well, right? Because they'll want to see more aggregate level data. The student e-file is largely used by the teachers. And so when you get in here, the easiest way to kind of find a student is to just search for them. And we have this little student, our demo student, Millard Hatton. And so I can see this is the student, and I can go into the student info, which is the student e-file. So all of this that I'm gonna walk you through is really the student e-file. So this is the piece we want you guys to take a look at. So you can see there's tabs across the top, and then there's also hidden thing here. There's also, these things are clickable too, these little menus down the side. So really think about the tabs across the top and the things down the side. And as Joe mentioned, our UI is fairly dated in, you know, kind of the left tabs and the top tabs. And so we want to just kind of see what you guys can do to modernize the UI a little bit. Teachers come in here on their at-risk students actually a fair amount because of the breadth of information that's in here. And so I'm just going to kind of start across the top, and we're just going to really look at all the tabs in detail. And then I've got some use cases written up that I'll share with Colin that he can get out to you guys as well. And I can also let you guys have a little demo login in here so you can kind of play with it and get a little hands-on with it as well. Just don't delete too much stuff out here, okay? Just, just view. So here's the student information. So if I click on, you know, the main student tab here. So this is just the super generic information: name, race and ethnicity, the IAD numbers, home language, address. This little class information is also clickable, so you can see which classes this student is in. So for like a middle school student or a high school student, this would show which periods and which teachers. For elementary kids, it's largely just the groupings in their homeroom. So that's the main thing. And then each of these little tabs can go into a little bit more detail. So it will show which programs the student is enrolled in. So programs are programs that the school has around, like this student might be in an English as a second language program. So there's additional resources applied there, or they might be in a Title I reading program. And so it's just, you know, just informational. Here is all the different student plans, and this screen here is just a list, but when we'll actually get into the educational support tab, will show us all the detail behind these plans. Then there's this kind of peer group report, which I don't think anyone ever uses, so I'm just going to blow right over that. This testing guidelines is pretty cool. So for each of the national tests that students have to take, if students need any kind of accommodations, that's tracked here. And so when you come to this screen, I always like to click on all, because it really shows like all the different accommodations that are available, and then the check marks indicate which accommodations this student has. And the cool thing about this is we can, teachers can put this information in here, and we can actually upload that to the testing vendors too. So that's kind of handy. But you'll see there's a lot of stuff in here, right? Like this is just national standard. What help does this student need? for taking assessments. So these are just accommodations that this student gets. But this is used a fair amount. And there can be a couple of different, state assessments and guidelines listed in here. Then there's this notes and attachments section, and this is really just like, this is where you would attach a file. So I've got a file that I want someone to see on this kid, and we're just going to attach it into this section. So, and then these two things here, like, these obsolete things, they're obsolete. They could probably go away.
They shouldn't be there.
So there's lots of opportunity here.
Can I interject and ask why they're obsolete?
They're just really duplicative, right? So the classroom special testing, instead we just track the national special testing because there's very specific guidelines, and really people don't want to track classroom accommodations anymore. They try to meet the classroom accommodations to the national accommodations. Does that help?
It was functionality that we had, and it became redundant.
Yeah.
And instead of removing it out of the UI, we left it.
We left it. Okay, let's go see the performance tab. This is one of my favorites. So this is where, the product can load in all of the assessment data that kids take. So most schools, all K through 12 schools, you guys remember from when you were in school, you're subjected to a battery of testing. So this is where those results are. So you can see here's some state assessments like the IELA and the IRI and the ISAT ELA and the ISAT mathematics testing. So this is just really the detail on student assessment results. And I would say what gets looked at the most here is because there's and this is a demo student, so most districts don't have this much testing. Some do, but most districts will have like 4 or 5 here instead of like a 10 that we have. But they love this, like this scale score. So I can click on this ISAT, ELA, or literacy, and we actually track sort of the benchmarks, right? And so they can see that for this little guy, this little student of ours, in the spring of 2015-16, this little kid was proficient, and so you can see where he is, and then you can see where the boundaries are. So the orange line is basic, the green line is proficient, and then the light blue line is advanced. In the spring of 17, the student scored a 25-33, and that put him right up on that advanced boundary. And then in the spring of 18, score dropped a little, but still staying above that proficiency level where we want him to be. And so each of these scores can really be viewed in these trend charts. And they really like these trend charts to kind of show, how are the students doing. These magnifying glasses are just more details, right? So it'll show the IELA test actually breaks down results for listening, speaking, reading, writing. So it'll show the raw score, the scale score, and then the different proficiency levels here. So this is just a more detailed view of that individual test result. So again, here's another scale score for the ISAT mathematics. And then there's, lots more assessments down here. So anything with a little chart indicator is what we can see a trend chart on. So any questions on this tab? So there's the recent results, which would show the last 3 years. And then you can also click this little button to show all results, which would show, as many years of data as we have. So some of the districts who have been with us since 2011 will have now 9 years of data in there.
There's a lot of acronyms in here that even as an educator, I'm not familiar with. Is there a place where we can go get kind of just a crash course in what all these terms are? Yes.
So all of these, like the IELA and the IRI, these ISAT, these are like the Idaho Standards Achievement Test. English Language Arts is ELA. IRI, oh my gosh, I'd have to go look it up. I'll look it up and let you know. And then this is the Idaho English Language Arts results. So I can get you some of the acronyms, and then if you have questions, just email me.
Yeah, my wife was just talking about the OSPCI. I hope I got that right, but it's Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Oh yeah.
And we're talking about that with the other parents. The other parents like, we have an Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. Yes,
They love their acronyms.
Yes, even members of the PTA group are learning new things every day.
Things. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, and then you know, the standards reporting.
Do you want to get rid of it?
Let me show you what it does. I can only pick certain things here. Hang on, I never demo this. It's speedy, as you can see.
We should get rid of it.
Yeah, you could get rid of this.
Okay.
I'm happy to take it out. Let's take that out. Okay, I'm gonna skip over to the benchmarks tab because it's really tightly aligned with the performance tab, and then I'm gonna come back to educational support. So performance and benchmarks are all interrelated. This is really just a more visual view of the test results. So for the district assessments where we have set up benchmarks, which in Idaho, it's the Idaho State Testing, and so that's the ISAT. So there are benchmarks set up in Idaho of where your kids should be for the ELA, the English Language Arts Test, and the Idaho State Achievement Test for mathematics. Oh, we just give it, I love these charts because they're so visual, right? Like it shows where the kiddo is, you know, whether or not they've met proficiency or not, and how, but you can see how close they are. So you can see this student is so super close for math versus just getting the, oh, they're basic. You know, you can kind of get a gauge of where they are. So it's like I said, really related. Not all of the assessments are in here. It's just the assessments where we've loaded benchmarks for, and those tend to be what are referred to as those high stakes tests in schools. So in Idaho, it's the Idaho State Achievement Test. And then if you go to the details tab, it has a little bit more detailed information there. And you can make some notes in here as well, which I don't know why people would make notes. More they like this view just because of the visual nature of the assessment results. So those two tabs kind of go together. So questions about assessments or benchmarks or assessment results, because now we're going to kind of jump into a different area.
I had a question about the format of the graphs.
Yeah.
Are they like are they generated, I guess, like for each page, or is it like basically a big template? Like, is this all just, does it change per student, or is it like developed for each student, or is it just like a bunch of templates that just automatically fill in information? Or I guess I'm kind of trying to understand the.
Yeah, no, great question. So every student within a single school district, these views are going to look the same, right? So these ranges are going to be the same, but the individual student's performance is plotted on here. Okay. Same thing for the performance tab. So it's going to have, for every student in the same district, it's going to have the same assessment results. Now, some students may only have a year of results because they might have just moved to the district. Some students might have 5 years of results because they've been a student in the district for 5 years.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you want technically how we build that graph, or did you want just that information?
I mean, kind of both. I was just curious, kind of on both like sides of it, I guess.
So we grabbed the district levels. So if you go back to the benchmarks, we grabbed the district levels out of our database basically. And so for each of these assessments, then there's the different levels. And so that comes in dynamically to the page, although they don't change. And so then the red, orange, green, and blue is drawn on the page with JavaScript. And then where that student is also a little JavaScript thing that drops it on there. In this particular case, it's the what's red, green, or blue is pulled out of the database, and then we draw it in that manner.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a related but a bigger scope question. Allison, are we looking to reskin or retheme the existing content, or are we looking for more of a bigger redesign? So I guess a pragmatic question would be like, can we change the order number labels, or should
I'm
we
going
leave
to
those
say
alone?
yes, Joe. I'm thinking
Yes.
of,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Go how, the one thing that probably won't change is if you, it's kind of that gray area up by that where it says student e-file. That's pretty much it. Right.
So we would redesigning from there down,
Yeah.
not the area where the little house is at and the.
Yeah, not any of this up here. Yeah, correct. Like these blue tabs down.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I'm a little curious if you guys have had any feedback from the teachers using these currently. I'm not sure if I'm getting ahead of the ball with that, but I'd love insight from them if you have any feedback.
Yeah. So I would say so far from what we've reviewed, this is super not intuitive that these are clickable. Like that's a question I have to answer all the time. Like where's the testing guidelines and accommodations? So, these look more clickable. They look like tabs that you can click. I think the performance, it would be nice if maybe trend charts could be like, you didn't have a separate click for those, but again, may not be possible. So just a little more things to make it a little bit more user friendly. And even, could we integrate some of the benchmark into the performance tab? Just, things to consider. Those would be more, those are things I hear.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, if they're basically similar, like, would it not be smart to just put those on the same page and just have the visual information and the list information side by side? Or I don't know.
Yep, that's a possibility for sure.
Yes.
You guys can get creative here.
Yeah. You pretty much.
It's easy to improve.
There's a lot of fish in this barrel.
Yeah. So in interest of time, I got to move forward. So sorry. Okay. Educational support. This tab is deep. Okay. So this is where educational plans exist. Think of an educational plan as being a lot of different things, right? It can be something that's like just a general educational support plan. It can be a graduation plan. It can be a K-3 literacy plan. It can be a 504 plan. So these are all, there are lots of different plans in here. This student has every plan imaginable, just as an example, okay? Let's look at what's in a typical educational support plan. So there's, and the way that these plans work is these modules are configurable. So we have like 12 or 13 different, what we call building blocks. So one building block is just plan information, one's student information, one's the interventions and accommodations, one's the progress monitors. And we can kind of pick and choose what goes into each plan. So when you see the different plans, you'll notice that they all have these different components or building blocks. The two things that get used a lot in here for these is the interventions and progress monitors. So an intervention just really designates, so I'm going to just view this intervention, and it just really says what is the augmentation I'm going to give this student, right? So I'm going to put this kid in a differentiated grouping for math. It's going to be a small group with the assistance of a teacher, with the assistance of a paraprofessional. They can have a start date and an end date and an intended outcome, right? So it's just got all these, it's really just the what am I as a teacher going to do to try to help bring this student up. And so you'll see these different interventions here. Progress monitors are really intended to be like a weekly or bi-weekly check-in on the student where we can put different probes in there. So I'm going to just view the student results. So a progress monitor, so for a reading program on an elementary school student, you're really looking at the word count per minute, right? So how many words per minute is this student reading, and what is so they can set the student's baseline and their goal. So we would like to get this student to from 75 to 115. Then you can go in and record the values, and that's done somewhere else, but you can go in and record the different weekly or bi-weekly values, and we'll show the trend chart. And then based on the values you've entered, what's their current trend line? So you can see here we've got a pretty big gap between the red, which is the trend line, and then the goal, which is the green. They love these trend charts, right? Because they're very quick, they can very quickly tell, is the intervention and working? So you want to think about it as the intervention is the what we're going to do. The progress monitor is how we're going to measure if it's working or not, and they really kind of go together. Does that make sense?
Can I ask you to repeat that? Just want to make sure that I understood that.
Yeah, so the intervention really lays out the what we're going to do. So we're going to target, you know, a small group assistance. We're going to do an after-school math group. We're going to do something like that. And then the progress monitor is the little data point that we're going to come in and measure every week or every 14 days. And we're going to just, you know, we're going to check something like the word count per minute to see the student's progress. And that's what we trend to see if that remediation is working. So again, personally, from what I've heard, like anything more visual here, like it's so many clicks to go in and view the student results versus if there was a way to just kind of see something a little bit more right here quickly on, you know, is it working or not? So you can, you know, print these plans, copy these plans, and modify things in here as needed, or add interventions or add progress monitors as needed.
Allison, can I have you hit the print button?
You bet.
Yeah. That's what I thought. All right.
Yeah.
I would love to see a sample printout. So.
Oh, here, let's just click it. And you guys are, when I give you this little login, you're more than welcome to go in and print things.
Do whatever you want, yeah.
Yeah, print whatever you want. So this is, and it really is just a lot of the data that you'll see in here. The charts don't print with the progress monitors, which is kind of a bummer, but
I know, that's so dumb.
Can you guys fix that?
They could probably say, put the charts in, but my team would have to put it in.
Yeah, they'd have to put it in. All right, hang on. I got to get, the little control up there at the top is getting in my way. There we go. Okay. The other thing, since we just talked about printing, where'd it go? Let me go to student info. This student transfer file, this is the other thing that gets printed all the time, right? Because this sort of has all the tabs of information.
So wait. Oh,
sorry.
That's okay. I was gonna say uncheck create PDF, and you get to see.
I get to see it much faster. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
We'll come back and look at that when it's ready. Yeah. Okay, so that's educational support. I would encourage you guys, because we're going to run out of time here, I would encourage you guys to go look at the different plans just to get a feel for, I think I'm hung until that PDF generates, aren't I?
Yeah.
To get a feel for what those look like.
Refresh. There we go.
For love.
So are teachers the only ones that use this?
They're the biggest users, but admins can use this as well, like principals. Not necessarily this. Like a teacher is largely the user of the student e-file. So for what you're designing, it's mostly the teacher or the paraprofessional who's helping the teacher. Okay, I can fix this. I can cheat.
Is this plan made by teachers, or is there like, do parents have any say in what the?
It's mostly made by teachers, but often shared with parents. So that file, that little printed file, a lot of districts will use that printed file to share with parents. So I'm going to go out there again, and I'm going to uncheck the PDF, and we're going to print it. All right, this should be faster. Oh.
Sure, he says it's faster.
Crud.
So to go on what Randy was saying, is there's no parent or student login? This is just solely for teachers and the educators.
So that's a great question. We do have parent and student portal capabilities. No one uses it, but yes, there are parent and student capabilities, and they would see sort of a subset of what's in this file, but our districts don't use it. They tend to just print these out to share with the parents during conference.
Okay, great.
But you can see here's the results, nothing super visual in this. It's just here's all the assessment results, here's all the plans.
Do you think more students or parents would be interested in it if it, you know, was more clear, or maybe if like there was a glossary to some of the details, or the ability to like hover over something and have it explained, maybe something?
I'm going to say in elementary school, probably, I don't think they would have students come into here in elementary school. Potentially in the other schools. I think the thing that we bump up against is in secondary schools. They're already probably logging into Google Classroom and the SIS, and they kind of just feel like it's a lot for students to have, you know, all these logins.
Right. Okay.
So, but maybe, potentially, but largely these are teacher users. Okay, so that's what that looks like. So the other three tabs I think I can get to pretty quickly because I know I'm running out of time. Programs, this is just, you know, is this kid in a program? And this is display information. They manage students in these programs somewhere else. But it is really just, you know, this kid is in the English as a second language program, right? And there's a few pieces of information here, like what date they came in, different statuses, different plans associated with that. Again, I don't see a lot of people use this other than to see which programs is the student in, entry date, exit date, and what are they currently sort of receiving here. You can add students to a program from here, but typically it's not done here. We have another place where this is really managed much more easily.
We could remove that.
We could remove that because there is other places where students are. Normally a teacher doesn't get to manage what a student, if a student's in a program. That would be more like why am I blanking on the name, Joe? The interventionist specialist.
Yeah, like the special ed person or the
that's who gets to pick who's in a program. Okay, then behavior incidents. I gotta find a different, so I need to find a different kid for behavior students, so hang on.
Is that for the bad kids?
Yeah, pretty much. So behavior incidents are, like you said, these are, this student, they can be things as minor as, the student was tardy, to arson. We have arson in here, or a bomb threat, dress code violations. So clients can customize what different incidents they track, and then each of these incidents can be recorded in here and it will just say, you know, was there any action taken? Did we have to contact the justice system? So it's just really a listing of the different incidents, behavior incidents for students. And then finally, assignments.
I think we should ditch that tab.
We should ditch this tab. Yeah, we don't really have, this was sort of a beta capability a while ago. So I would say ditch the assignments tab. So you can kind of disregard that one.
It doesn't have anything to do with like school assignments, does it? Or
It doesn't.
supposed to.
No, not right now. It was supposed to. It was kind of never got baked out functionality.
For programs, is that like after school programs, or is that like an actual class? That's considered
No,
a
these
program?
are more like a student could be part of a gifted and talented program, or an English as a second language program, or they might be part of like a Title I program. So these are more district level programs where there's additional support kind of provided at the district level.
Yeah,
That
certain
helps.
ones like Title I has additional
Title I.
funding around it, or 504s have a different type of funding around it. That's where a lot of those come from.
is it tracked at all, like what after school programs or like clubs they might be in, or like organizations?
That's not really tracked in here. Only right now it's more the interventions or the you know, extra academic support that's tracked in
Okay,
here. I
got
suppose you could track it in here, but I've not seen that done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the e-file in a flash. What other questions? So I'll send you guys some login information, the couple of students that are good to use, and then you can always just ping us back with questions.
I want to make sure we're on the same page when you use how are you defining use cases?
Oh, use cases. Let me just pull those up. I have some. Where are they? Let me bring them up. I will send these to you as well. I can change these if you need them changed, but this is how I wrote them. Oh, come on. So as a teacher, I can view a student's longitudinal assessment results and see their growth and progress from session to session. I'll let you finish reading it.
Okay.
So those are kind of the use cases that I wrote.
I just wasn't we do something very, very similar. I just don't in UX1 and UX2, did you all use cases as okay, good.
Yeah, and I think, you know, our expectation of the design would be you would take this use case and then the actual click-through or wireframe would show how this use case would be accomplished. If you need more use cases, we could certainly do that.
I can do more. I didn't put one around behavior in here, so I'll add one in for behavior before I shoot it over.
Thank you.
This is just a brief of how it's going to be used for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I had a quick question too. So beyond wireframes, do you guys want us to stick with the colors and the typefaces that are being used now, or do we have a little bit more flexibility?
I'm open to that. Yeah, like I said, the only thing I think that's going to have to stay is the top part there. So there's sort of some color constraints there, but really, even that, if you found a better way to present the information, I would be open. I think we'd be open to that, but. So I really don't want to constrain you guys, because part of what I want to do is get different ideas and different ways of looking at it and things to put it together. And so, however you think would look a little nicer and a little better. I'm fairly certain we have a font problem, because I can see right now 4 different fonts. So so I'm open.
Okay.
Is this? You don't have to download. This is online. How
Yeah.
do you
It's all online. Yeah.
get to it exactly?
What was that?
How do you get to it from the website exactly?
Oh, we'll send y'all that, but you just go silverbacklearning.net, and then there'll be a login screen.
Okay.
I did have one quick question. I think it was under performance when you were talking about logging the data points. You mentioned logging the data points is done somewhere else. Can you show us that real quick?
Progress monitors, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, so the progress monitors, yeah, so progress monitor data, from the home screen, we make that pretty easy for teachers to they can come right into here to manage their progress monitors. We just make that available from the home screen. I might not have any open for this teacher. I don't think I have any open for this teacher. Oh, no, here we go. So they would come in here and do, I don't have any open right now for this, but they would come in here to record the new values. Like, so if you have a small after school reading group, you're typically going to test the whole group on word count per minute, and you would come in here and enter it like once a week. And then that's what would show up in the e-file progress monitor.
Okay, and then like if you wanted to see the progress on one of these students, would you just click on their name from there, or you would have to go back to the home page and navigate?
You can do it from here, so you can view the student results from here, but we also allow you to view the results from the e-file as well. But yeah,
okay, perfect. Thank you.
view the results from here. So here's another example, but this same chart would be in the e-file if you hit view student results from there.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So when you log in, remember you'll just go up here to this student search. That's the easiest way to go, and I'll give you the 2 student names that I used. And like I said, feel free to play around in here. The environment sort of gets rewritten every Saturday morning. So I'll just give you that warning. It's kind of reset every week.
Does anybody have anything else?
So is the username and password is going to be from a teacher, or?
Yeah. We'll do it from a teacher, because a teacher's the primary user of the e-file.
Okay.
And we'll share all that info. And
yeah, I'll get that to you today, Colin.
oh, thank you.
Is it divided into like groups for example, us, we do fall, winter, spring? Do they do it by semester or like quarter, like these charts that you showed us, or are they by weekly progress?
So progress monitors are typically weekly, but the assessment results are like a fall, winter, spring typically, or sometimes they're just like the once a year high stakes test. So that's just kind of year to year. So yeah, performance monitors are typically week to week, because they're sort of the kids that you're applying extra resources to try to really impact scores. And then these types of results tend to be more of a fall to spring, or even just a spring to the next spring. Yeah, so here's where we've got IRI data for lots of years, so you can see sort of the trend chart there.
I might have missed it, but did you say there was a section where you could do like a whole class? It has like a graph of like an entire group?
Not from the e-file. So from the student e-file, you're just really looking at one student at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think what we're going to do is not take too much of your time. We'll collect our thoughts and compile our questions as a class. Therefore, you're not going to get 20 different the same question 20 different times. And kind of go from there. And I have some initial ideas, and yeah, I'm stuttering because I have too many things I want to say about this, and I'm gonna save it for the class. But if anyone has any pressing questions, we'll let Joe and Allison go, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll reconvene and discuss the kind of some of the details here. I think this falls. What I had Joe and Allison do is they were kindly willing to share all of this information with me on our first meeting. I said, can we just hold off, because I want to hear this all for the first time, just like y'all are hearing this. And this falls perfectly into what we have planned with our design system. So
might put a couple of things in your head to think about. Generally, if the design can be done towards a tablet or smaller, it always helps with usability, and so some ideas around that. Also, a little more towards the Google look, the Google standards, a little towards that. Not so much towards the Apple stuff, but kind of that direction would be some sort of guidelines, I would say, if you're going to go out and design something towards Google standards and towards a tablet size.
I'm not. Yeah, see, I had to stop myself. All right. I have a tendency to ramble, so I'm gonna stop there. All right, thanks, Joe. That's great. That helps narrow our focus. Okay.
Cool.
Y'all, take a break, decompress, come back in 5 minutes. I don't have a way to set a timer here. Does that work? No. All right. Come back in 5 minutes. Joe, Allison, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all, take a break, decompress, okay? And I'm genuinely really excited about this. This fits what I wanted to do. We had 2 major projects for our design system, and this fits a lot better. I'll talk about the second one also. But before we do that, let's take a break. Go